Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. I'd like to thank you for tuning into this week's episode. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience seeing the Houston Astros. This was actually when I lived in Houston some years ago. Before I get into that, a little housekeeping just to get it out of the way. First off, if you'd like to go on vacation, specifically a cruise, which is my specialty, or if you want to go see a team yourself like I do, maybe you want to go see the Houston Astros, you can reach out to me in a couple different ways, one of which is through email. I have an email address for my business account. It is j.paradise_travels@gmail.com. That is jay.paradise_travels@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to me through social media. If you want to send me a message on either Instagram or Facebook, I have an account for both, and they're both the same. Jay's Paradise Travels. That's Jays. There's no apostrophe in there. Jays. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can reach out to me again, Facebook or Instagram. We can connect that way. All right, now that we got the housekeeping out of the way, let me go ahead and tell you about my experience here seeing the Houston Astros. As I mentioned, this is when I lived there years ago, back in early 2000s, mid 2000s. I moved down to Houston. I actually had gotten engaged to somebody down there who I met at a wedding. A friend of mine had moved to Houston. He was from Michigan. I went down for his wedding in 2005. And while I was there, I met a girl, ended up talking with her, dating her, and eventually getting engaged to her. Moved down there because that's where we were going to live um, after we got married. And about 10 weeks before the wedding, she called it off. Needless to say, I was heartbroken at the time. But I ended up, and I wanted to come back up to Detroit, but just circumstances weren't going to allow it at the time. So I ended up staying down in Houston, kind of made a new life for myself, moved around somewhere else, and ended up making it my home for 5 years before I met Selena. And now it's been, as of just a couple weeks ago, 15 wonderful years with my wife uh, as I record this episode. So everything worked out fine. But, anyways, at the time, though, when I was down there and going to see the Houston Astros for the first time, I had lived there, like I said, for 5 years, and I had seen two games. I'm going to tell you a little bit about both. The first one was very shortly after that whole engagement got broken off. As I mentioned, I kind of moved around, met some different people, and a friend that I had met named Troy. He had uh, kind of gone through not exactly the same, but something similar. He had some difficulties with some family stuff too. We kind of, I guess, in a way, bonded. He was a little older than me, but we kind of bonded through that and became friends. And and at this point, I had officially established my hobby of going to see games. I didn't have it as clear and defined of how I do it back then. Um, I have a method to my madness now, but back then I didn't. It was all still pretty new, and I didn't have an iPhone. iPhones weren't even around then. I didn't have an iPhone. I just had a disposable camera for that first game, so I don't have any pictures from the first game. But I do have still the memories and the thoughts of the experience itself. And then years later, I went and saw him again. So I'm going to again mention both times seeing the Houston Astros. That first game, my friend Troy went with me. I told him about my hobby, and I looked at the schedule, and I thought I'd like to go down there and catch the game. And that's what we did. We went together to go down there. We didn't have any tickets, if you can believe that. We ended up going down there, just us two. Figured it's a baseball game. It should be easy to get tickets. You just walk up and buy tickets, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. But apparently, no. That's because now this was later on in the year. Now we're in the second half of the season. We're in September time. It's getting close to the playoff time, and Houston was in the hunt for the playoffs. And I believe the team that they were fighting with or were playing, they were fighting for the playoff spot. So it was ended up being a sold out game. And I'm strolling up in there like, okay, hey, I come to buy a couple tickets. No, there was a sold out game. So we're like, all right, we're gonna go home. What are we gonna do? But my friend started asking around, and there was a couple guys or there was somebody he found. I don't even know who he found. Somebody he found that had two tickets they were willing to sell. I think he sold them for like $80 a piece or something like that. All right, well, it's going to get us in the game and a little bit more than what I wanted to spend, for a baseball game. But whatever, we were there. I didn't want to not go see the game since we were already there. So we bought them from whoever, and I was thinking, I hope this is legit. I hope we're not getting scammed here. But it was actually legit, and it was pretty nice seats. We actually sat, I mean, like basically just a few rows behind home plate. So if I'm going to spend $80 a ticket at a baseball game, and I'm be able to sit that close, that's pretty good. And it was like, as I mentioned, they weren't in the playoffs. They were fighting to go into the playoffs, but because of it, full crowd, it was like a playoff game in there. And they were playing the St. Louis Cardinals, and it was an electrifying atmosphere. I was pretty stoked about that. That it was an electrifying atmosphere. We had great seats right behind home plate, a few rows up, and full crowd. It was a nice experience that first time around. The second time around was a little different. Now I had been in Houston now for a few years, had met other friends, and had established myself a little bit more than then when I had just recently moved to Houston, maybe just a few months before that game. Now I've been in Houston a couple of years or so, and now I've got more rapport. Now I'm asking friends around, see if anyone would like to go with me. No one could make it. It was on a Saturday, and Detroit was coming into town. Um, I was like, all right, I guess I could go by myself. So I went by myself. And now at this time, I do have a camera and I am able to take pictures of the outside. Before I took pictures of the outside with a disposable camera. I, I I don't even know what happened to that disposable camera. I don't know if I have that in storage somewhere or not. If I ever come across it, and if I find someone ever develop, I don't know if do they develop photos anywhere? I know maybe CVS does. I have no idea. I can maybe see some of those pictures before, but for now, it's just a memory. But I did get to go back to a game again, and this time I had my camera and I was able to take pictures. And I got a picture of the outside, a couple of pictures of the outside that I was pretty happy with. The first game that I went to was a night game. It was at night, and the stadium was open. The second game that I went to, and they were playing Detroit, the stadium was closed, and it was during the day. And I'm guessing because Houston could be very hot, and who makes the decision as when it open and when it's not, I don't know. But my guess is if you're going to play a baseball game in the middle of summer in Houston during the day, I'm going to guess putting the roof, closing the roof is gonna help. So fans aren't passing out there at 100 something degree weather. But at nighttime, uh, temperature cools off a little bit. It's not as hot as during the day. So I can, and especially in September time, as opposed to when I went to the game with Detroit, it was during the summertime. So I'm sure that had probably a reason for it. So first game, stadium's open. Second game, stadium's closed. Because I don't normally go back to games, and there's only a handful of retractable stadiums, anyways. This is my first time getting to see a stadium and be able to experience both an open stadium and it being closed. I don't get to experience that too often. In fact, I don't experience it at all. That was my only time that I got to experience it, which was kind of cool. Um, Yeah, so and then as regards seeing Detroit, this was actually my third time seeing them on the road. I had seen them the first time out in Baltimore, where they won 6-1. The second time was when I lived in New York. I got to see them play the Yankees. They won 8-1. Now it's my third time seeing them on the road. Both times they had won and held the team to only one run, so my hopes were high. Um, and this was kind of one of those like I live in Houston, and I kind of always do root for the home team. But if they're playing my team, which is Detroit, even when I lived in Houston, Detroit was still my team. I still, you know, liked them and wanted them to win. And that's how I felt. So I was kind of still rooting for Detroit, even though it was in Houston. Now, the first game, Houston did win the first game. They beat St. Louis. Now, here's the thing. Normally, I'm pretty good about this. I don't remember what the score was. I remember that they played St. Louis. I was trying to look through. I have a little book for putting ticket stubs in there. My wife got me for an anniversary some years ago. I got a few of them actually. And as I continue to go to games, I'll put the ticket stubs in there. Nowadays, you can't even get a hard copy ticket unless you're like a season ticket holder. So I will take a snapshot of it, screenshot of it, send it to CVS, have them print it out, cut that up, put it in. That's how I do that now. I was trying to look to see any ticket stubs from the Houston Astros from the past. And surprisingly, I kept them for many years. Um, I couldn't find him. I could not find it. So I was trying to think. I remember the time frame of when I went down to Houston. When I moved down there, I remember the time frame of when my ex broke up with me before the wedding, and it was around that time that I finally went to the game. So I knew the time frame. I looked up the series, and they there was a 4 game series against St. Louis over near the end of the year. They won all those games. It was from a Thursday to Sunday. I can't remember which day it was, and I can't remember what the score was. It was one of these four. The first 2 games they won 6-5, Thursday and Friday. I don't think we saw it during the week. I'm pretty sure it was a weekend game that we went and saw. On Saturday they won 7-4, and then on Sunday they won 7-3. It was one of those two. Or I'm pretty sure it was one of those two. I'm pretty sure it was not Thursday or Friday. I know they won, and I know that the crowd was into it. It was electrifying. It was an awesome atmosphere to be a part of. What happened in the game, I can't recall anything about what happened in the game. And more than likely because at the time I was going through a difficult time with my ex breaking up with me. And that took a lot out of me. That was very emotionally difficult at the time. So probably my focus wasn't on the game, although I was happy to be there. Um, but that could be one of the reasons why. I don't remember anything that happened during that game, and I'm usually pretty good about remembering something. So I couldn't remember what happened during the game, what the score was. But it was one of those. It was they either won 7-4 or 7-3. I'm like 99% about that, and I do know that they won. Fast forward to the game against Detroit, a little different. This one, I do remember a little bit of it. I remember not being able to have anyone to go with me. I had some friends that thought about it, but then couldn't make it. Okay, whatever. So I went by myself. And every all the details within the game can be a little foggy too. But Houston did end up winning, and I do remember that. I was able to easily find the score because I remember the score. So in the first inning, Houston was able to get Tejada to score and made it a 1-0 game. It's like, all right, every game that I've seen Detroit play on the road, they've allowed one run. That's it. Now they've already scored one run in the first inning. Second run or second inning, they get another run, 2-0 Houston. I'm like, oh, well, there goes that streak. And now the Tigers are losing. Uh, Santiago did hit a home run in the top of the third to cut the lead in half to make it 2-1. Okay, let's get back in there, Tigers. And then in the third inning, they proceed to hit or score 5 runs in the bottom of the third to break the game open to 7-1. Like, great. This is going to happen. I remember at one point, the Tigers did throw a guy out at second. I was super excited about that. I remember getting hyped about that. But at that point, they were losing anyways. And just for good measure, Houston scored another run in the sixth just to make it 8-1, uh, the final score. And I don't recall if, yeah, actually, there was one home run by Detroit. Their one single shot, their one run was a single shot. And I think I remember with that too, if they would have got somebody on base, which someone was close to but didn't get on, it could have tied the ball game up. Oh well, whatever. So 8-1. So the first 2 games that I saw Detroit on the road, they held the team to one run in both of those games and won the game. The third time I saw them on the road, they lost and only scored one run themselves. And I think at that moment is when I kind of decided this is where I don't really want to see Detroit, one of my home teams, be the road team if I go see a team. And I will, and I have, but I preferably not because that was a fun atmosphere. It wasn't like the first game where it was like a playoff type of game and it was just electrifying for a baseball game, which doesn't always happen. It wasn't like that, but it was still a fun atmosphere to be a part of. The crowd was into it, the fans were into it, and here I am, kind of in a bad mood because my Detroit Tigers are losing, and they're losing bad to the Houston Astros. So instead of being able to go there and have fun with the crowd and be a part of that crowd and be excited with the crowd, here I am kind of sulking because and upset and mad because my team is losing. And I believe it was this game that just kind of um, put it in my brain. It just something snapped with me that day. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. If I'm going to go see a team, if I'm going to go see a stadium, then I'm going to try to do it where my team is not involved. As I've said, I have still seen my team on the road. There has been occasions where that's just how the scheduling worked, and that was what I could do. And it's like, okay, whatever. But preferably, I do want to see another team. I do not want to see my team on the road. And there are plenty of friends or others that have had sort of this hobby like mine, and they do go see their preferred team on the road. And it's like, hey, more power to you. If that's what you do, that's what you do. You know, I got no judgment on that. Myself, preferably, I would rather not see a Detroit team or Michigan on the road if possible, simply because I want to be able to be with the crowd and be with the hometown town fans. And I think this was the game that finally did that for me. I was like, I don't feel like doing this anymore. All right, so they lost 8-1. That was the second game. Disappointing for me, but whatever. Good for the Astros. They won 2-0 with them. They won the first game and the second game. The stadium itself, pretty cool stadium. I really like. I really do like the fact that they have that retractable roof, and it's kind of like a cascading retractable roof, which I think is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to look at. Um, So that's pretty nice about that. And then two, they kind of have like this interesting like center field where there's like almost like this little hill that's kind of unique to them. I haven't really seen that before. I don't even know what like this curved hill kind of thing that leads out to the wall and center field. That's kind of interesting. Um, And then one thing that I think is really unique and really cool about them is they got like this train that's out in the outfield, above the deck, above the lower deck. And I don't know if I forget what happens. Like if they hit a home run, it starts making noise, choo choo, and starts moving or something like that. I don't remember the exact thing of what happens when it's been so long, but they do have it out there. That's kind of a cool little feature for them, something very unique to their stadium. When I went to see them, they were called Minute Maid Park, and I liked that name, even though I'm not always huge on corporate. But Minute Maid Park kind of rolled off the tongue. I remember we served uh, Minute Maid on the airline that I worked. I was a flight attendant for United before United was Continental. That's where I started, and we had Minute Maid orange juice. So I kind of did like that name, even though I'm not always huge with corporate names on stadiums. But then when I looked it up, uh, to see what like the capacity of it, they changed the name. I was like, are you kidding me? They changed the name again, and now I don't even know how to pronounce it. Daikin Park, Daikin. And even before that, maybe there was something a name even between Minute Maid and this one. I don't know. I don't keep up with them all. But apparently, currently now it's Daikin Park, Daikin, whatever, however you pronounce that. I don't know. I'm like so disappointed with that. Just every time with these names, it can be very frustrating. Whatever. Apparently the capacity is 41,000. Uh, even I thought that was kind of funny. Like exactly 41,000. Um, and that first game, I let me see if they, I'll just click on it real quick here just to see if they have the attendance for I don't even remember which game I went to. This one said 43,704. That was an 8:05 game, and if that was the game that I attended Sunday night, which does seem familiar to me, then I definitely would not argue with that, because it was for sure packed out and full. Um, like I said, sold out. And the next 43,469 was this. So whatever game that weekend that I went and saw, it definitely was sold out. No arguments there. The game that I went to, the attendance 37,123. Okay, I mean, I guess I could kind of see that. It was, I mean, yeah, it was a decent crowd from what I remember. Not overly packed, but decent crowd. So I guess I could see that. And they used to play at Astrodome, at the Astrodome. I don't know if anyone remembers the Astrodome. That building was literally right next to the football stadium, which uh, I want to say when they moved out of there and went to Minute Maid Park and now Daikin Park, they turned that into like amusement park of some kind, like Astro World or something like that, if I remember correctly. Or they were or it was near Astro Park or something like that. I never went. I never went there. I only got to see it like in passing, like driving on the highway or something like that. Um, it was again, it was right next to where the Texans played. Which when I saw the Texans play, I saw the stadium too. Um, yeah, but it used to be the Astrodome, so they used to be right next to each other. Now they're a little bit more distance away. And Houston is huge. I don't know if you know how big Houston is, but it could literally, not just downtown, but everything that encompasses Houston, even downtown, is a good size. So where the football stadium was, and where the baseball field, or or a little bit of a distance away, and I think even Toyota Center, where the Rockets played, were a little different too. But and this is what I've always told people, where I live here in Detroit, I always tell Detroit because the city that I live in is called Taylor, and no one's ever heard of that. I literally live the city right next to the airport where Detroit Metro Airport is. But if you wanted to go to downtown Detroit, it's about a 20-minute drive north of us to be able to get up there. That's kind of where I lived when it came to downtown Houston. I lived about, but it was still Houston. That's how big Houston is. Houston, just to go from north to the south, could take you an hour. It is a huge city. And those ballparks were not exactly right next to each other. They used to be. The Astrodome was right next to where the Texans play. But once they moved out of the Astrodome and went into uh, Minute Maid Park, now Daikin Park, they're a little bit of a distance away from each other. Not too far, but they're a little bit of a distance away from each other. So cool stadium if you ever want to go visit. Again, let me know if you do. And then just some miscellaneous things about it. I lived in Houston for 5 years. Got to be a flight attendant, and um, there was one time that I got to charter the Houston Texans. Just one time. I only got to do a charter flight once. It was on a Sunday. We went to Milwaukee, picked them up after their series. We didn't even get off the plane. We flew into Milwaukee, empty plane, just got everything ready, and just waited on the tarmac until the team was done with their game. They loaded on their bus, came over, and then hopped on the plane with us. And I was the flight attendant in the back galley serving the food. Ton of food. Oh my goodness, ton of food. When I walked on the plane, I saw the food that was up in first class and throughout. I mean, they had just a spread of different candy and chips and snacks, all kinds of stuff. And I thought that was a lot. And then when I saw the food, they had like a few different options that we were gonna, like shrimp and steak and all kinds of stuff. And it was just a very different flight because it's just a chart. It's just their team. Um, Obviously, they all know each other. They paid to have us charter them. So you got like guys playing cards as we're taking off and as we're landing. You had a guy that brought on his own ice. He was like a media guy, and put some beer on ice or whatever, something like that. I mean, stuff that you normally wouldn't see happen on a regular flight. They were getting away with it because they could, and it was just a very relaxed flight. And as I said, food galore, and they didn't even eat it all, which was kind of cool because then afterwards it was like, well, here, take some stuff. It's there. They didn't eat it. So I mean, I couldn't. I mean, I took like a few things home, like some candy and I can't remember what else, but it wasn't like I could fit a whole steak and shrimp in my bag or anything like that. But that was my one and only time being able to charter a flight, and got to meet quite a few. Actually, I got to meet quite a few Astro players, obviously on that flight. But then every now and then, I might have a sports player on my flight too, from a Houston team. That was kind of cool. When I was working in the airline, there's I know I met at least one basketball player, Yao Ming. I met a handful of uh, baseball players, one football player uh, that played for Houston. So that was kind of cool. I always enjoyed that. And one of the guys, when I was at the Detroit game, the game that they were playing Detroit, there was one guy, one of the outfielders. His name was Hunter Pence. I don't know if he's still playing or he might be done by now, but he was a younger guy, and I remember looking at him and totally judging a book by his cover. Just looking at me like this dude looks like a punk. I don't like this guy. He just looks like a punk. Something about him, he just looked like a punk. And didn't know anything about him, never met him. I know nothing about this guy. I just based on what I was seeing, what he looked like a punk to me. Anyways, fast forward to doing this charter flight, and he's kind of quietly watching TV. They each had their own row. No one sat together, and he was like one of the nicest guys. One of the nicest guys. They were there was other guys. They were yelling and chirping at each other. I'm like, you guys are all on the same team, right? I mean, there's a lot of trash talking going on here. Of course, I've never played on a team, so maybe that is normal. Maybe you razz your own players, your own teammates. Maybe that does go on behind the scenes. I'd probably be gullible to think that it didn't. But there was a lot, and I couldn't. I was all right, but he just kind of sat quietly, watched his TV. Anytime I tried to start a conversation with one of them or ask them about something, they weren't super friendly with me. But he was nice enough to answer them. Not that I had a big conversation with them. And I was like, I was totally wrong with it. This guy ain't a punk at all. He's a nice guy. I can't believe I thought that. And I know, and as years gone on, I know not to judge a book by its cover. And even you kind of know that back then as you're in your early 20s, but you're still not, I don't know, fully developed, maturely developed. And so I had done that. Not that I didn't like the guy. He just looked like a punk to me. And I was like, well, maybe I didn't care for him just because of how he looked. Anyways, but then when I actually met him, he was a really nice guy. I'm like, all right, don't judge a book by its cover, Jason. This dude seems pretty nice. Um, yeah, so that was kind of cool. And as regards the Astros itself, now when I lived in Houston, as I said, I am a Detroit guy. I'm from Detroit. I like my hometown teams, all the Detroit teams, Michigan Wolverines, those are my guys. But when I lived in Houston, obviously all the Houston teams are around me, and I couldn't help but see them, hear them, go to their games here and there. Um, so I started liking them a little bit. Now the Texans, out of all three teams, the Texans were the one that I actually did start to like a lot more. Um, my friend Corey, who I've gone to some games with, I mentioned him in other podcasts that we've gone to games together. He was a big Texans fan, and we would watch the Texans together at times. He got me into Shinerbach beer. We'd watch a game and drink some beer and hang out, whatever. Um, so the Texans definitely were probably my top Houston team. Um, I would say after that it dropped off as regards like how much I liked them, like how much like the Texans actually I did when I was down there really like them a lot. They definitely were my second team. Still, I guess you could say still are. Um, but I'm not like surrounded with them as much anymore. I can only really see them from a distance now. I'll catch their scores, or whatever, but I don't always get the Texans games on up here. But I'll be in communication with Corey, who is still a big, huge Texans fan, and they seem to have a better shot at eventually making the Super Bowl than the Lions do right now, which is annoying. But anyways, but when I was down there, I really got into it. I remember getting really upset when they lost, and that's how I know, like, oh, yeah, I really did like the Texans a lot. They really did become my second team. Um, the Astros, I guess, would be like if the Texans were up here, the Astros were down here as a number two, and then the Rockets were down there too. Um, I probably like the Astros maybe a little bit more than I did the Rockets. I didn't quite catch on to them, although I was like, all right, good for them. Um, but nothing that I really, really emotionally got into my heart, I guess you could say. But the Texans did kind of become my second team for football, and I guess the Astros became kind of my second team for baseball, but just not as much as the Texans were for football. Altogether, though, despite the rough start, the heartache there, that broken engagement, when I lived in Houston, um, I had a good time. I met a lot of nice friends. And one of the friends that I met eventually introduced me to Selena. We had a mutual friend. That's uh, how I met her. And she came down to visit her friend. And I've had 15 wonderful years of marriage to her. As of now, I'm recording this here, December of 2025, and last month, or this month, excuse me, December of 20, we celebrated 15 years. We got married in December of 2010. Um, Great time in Houston. And while I was there, got to catch two Astros games, and I'm glad that I did. And I've gone back to Houston a couple times since. One sadly was for a funeral. As I mentioned, I did come to know and love a lot of friends down there that became like family to me. And one woman, her family, they were really like family to me. She was like a second mom to me, and she passed away. And I remember going down there for a cruise. Um, when did we go down there? I can't remember. Maybe 10 plus years ago. And we were staying with some other friends. The friend that I went down there who got married, and that's where I met my ex. we stayed with them, and I wanted to go see that family because I hadn't seen them in a while, but it was going to be a little complicated. And I didn't really fight for it. Didn't get to go. And then I found out not too long later that she passed away, and I was like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't go see her one last time. So anyways, but I had a lot of friends and family down there. We got to go down there for that cruise. We did go down again for her funeral. Shortly after we moved up here, we went down and visited with my friend Corey, stayed with him for a couple days. So it's been a few times, got to go back since that, but it's been a while. And I do have one more team. Out of that whole time that I was there, I got to see Rice a couple times. I never got to go see the Houston Cougars. So I still got one more team to go see down in Houston. And I'll try to go down. It is a nice place. And not only is that a nice place to go catch a game, there's they got the zoo, they got museums, NASA, they got a lot of different stuff, the Galleria. Um, a lot of nice things to see in Houston. And so if you ever want to go down to Houston, whether it's to catch the Astros game or go down there, Galveston is not technically Houston, but you can catch a cruise out of Galveston, which is just south. We went out on our honeymoon out of Galveston, and then when we went to Houston, we literally went a cruise out of Houston. There was the port of Houston for a bit. Um, and that was probably one of the roughest seas that I've ever been experienced. I have not noticed that they do that anymore. So they may have canceled it, maybe because of the rough water. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. Or maybe, who knows, maybe the fees were too high. I don't know. I'd have to look into the reason why. But you could go down there and get on a cruise. Again, my specialty out of Galveston if you'd like. It's about an hour away. Houston and Galveston are only about an hour away, and that's probably your closest um, airport to fly into if you wanted to go out of Galveston. There's two airports. There's Houston Intercontinental, George Bush one. That's the one that I mainly worked out of when I was a gate agent and a flight attendant. And even before those two jobs, when I worked for Continental Airlines, uh, that was their hub. So I was in and out of that all the time, especially when right after that breakup, and I had flying benefits. I came home every weekend to see my parents and just be be away from all the bad, sad memories until I finally moved and things started looking up when I met some other friends. But yeah, George Bush Intercontinental Airport is like their biggest one. You can fly into that's IAH, or you can that's North Houston. South Houston is another one called Hobby Airport. You could fly into that one as well. Um, Either one. But yeah, if you want to go to Houston, either catch a game, see something else, or go on a cruise. All of that I was trying to tell you. Just hey, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you with it. Again, you can reach out to me in a couple of different ways. You can reach out to me through email, j.paradise_travels@gmail.com is my email address. jay.paradise_travels@gmail.com. Feel free to email me and we can connect that way. Or if you want to reach out to me on social media through Facebook or Instagram, where I do post pictures of my travels as well, you can reach out to me at Jay's Paradise Travels, JAYS, no apostrophe in there, Jay's Paradise Travels on either Instagram or Facebook. You can look me up, send me a message. I also in the description below have links to my calendar that you could set up an appointment with me if you'd like to. There's my webpage. You can look at that and reach out to me that way. There's various ways to be able to reach out to me, but please do. And if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel, make some comments down below. Let me know about any experiences you've had with the Houston Astros or Houston or whatever. I'd love to hear about it and talk to you about it. Feel free to rate, like, subscribe, all those good things that podcasters need to do to keep their podcast going. And for myself, running a business, trying to get my name out there. I want to be yours and everyone else's uh, travel agency, make this world a happier place, one vacation at a time. Yeah, feel free to do all that stuff, and appreciate that. Tell your friends, family, share it with as many people as you can. So, yeah, I'd like to thank you for tuning in again to this week's episode, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.